Today we are going to be talking about Bernstein's theory of freezing the degrees of freedom. In 1967, Bernstein came up with a theory that in order to perform a motor learning skill more properly and accurately, there are three stages at which you will do so. The first stage is freezing the degree of freedom. The second stage is releasing and reorganizing the degrees of freedom. The final stage is exploiting the mechanical and inertial properties of the body. In each of these different stages, you will be freezing one section of the body in order to master one set of skills and then move on to the next. Today we will be using Bernstein's theory of freezing degrees of freedom in relation to a tennis serve. So, when initiating a tennis serve, there are many different aspects of your body that you need to take into account. You have your stance, which of course is your lower half. You have your torso, which is going to help with the twisting motion, which is going to help with the overall power of your serve. Then you have your left hand, which if you are right hand dominant, your right hand is going to have your racket, left hand is going to have the ball. So it's very important that you keep in mind that the first motion of the serve is going to be the toss of the ball. This means the only part of your body that is going to be active and unfrozen is going to be your shoulder, your left shoulder. You want to keep your left elbow and left wrist locked, so when you toss the ball, you have a nice, solid, hopefully straight up and down toss. One of the first movements you want to take into account when you're doing the tennis serve is going to be the toss. The toss is incredibly important because without a proper toss, you're not going to have the ball in a good position to strike. In order to do the toss correctly, you want to have your elbow and your wrist locked. This helps you maintain a straight arm motion as you toss the ball up and down. Now you're going to continue doing this motion until you get the ball to an ideal location. Once you get the ball in an ideal location and you can do so consistently, then you'll move on to the next step. The next step is going to be bringing your racket into play. So a lot of people will consider this like unsheathing a sword, which tends to make it a little more entertaining to think about. So your racket is going to start in a lower position. You're going to unfreeze your shoulder, your elbow, and your wrist in order to bring the racket into the correct position to what I call the ready position to perform the serve. So after the ball is thrown up, you are going to bring your racket from your side up, bending your elbow, bending your wrist, and bringing it to this position. When you are here, you are going to follow the ball up, and from there, you are going to kick the racket forward, and then you are going to begin turning your body, and at this point, you will be ready to strike the ball. There are a lot of different movements involved in this. You have your hips, your legs, both your shoulders, both your elbows, and your wrist. Once the ball gets to its maximum height, that is where you're going to be striking the ball, you're going to bring your racket up, you strike, and then after you strike, you bring your racket down, you bring your foot forward, and this is the follow-through. The follow-through is incredibly important when you are considering a tennis serve because it gets you ready to return the ball if your opponent is able to return your serve. If you do not do a follow-through, then you may not be in a good position to return the ball, or you may have extra time you may have less time to respond in the event that the ball comes back at you. This can be detrimental when playing tennis, as you have to make split-second decisions as to whether you move left, you move right. As you can see in the following clips, I recorded a slow-motion version of myself and my friend going through the motions of a tennis serve. During the first two segments, you will see us going through a practice round where we do not strike the ball, but we go through the motions as if we were to do so. I show a forward and side view to help illustrate how our bodies move and the different parts that are actually activated during the movements. In the second two videos, you will see the same thing, but going through the full motion with the strike of the ball and the follow-through as well. Set. doing your serve, there is a moment at the end of the serve where you will have the option for one additional movement. When you throw the ball up, you bring your racket back and you throw the racket up to meet the ball. There is the chance that you will actually be vaulting your body up into the air to strike the ball while it's midair. Now, this is typically done in a more powerful serve and not necessarily something that a novice would do. For a typical novice, you would simply go through the motions, throw the ball up, and strike the ball. When you throw your body up harder, your body is actually going to be brought aloft due to the force of throwing yourself up, even though you're not actually making a jumping motion. And I will demonstrate that now. With a simple serve, you throw the ball up and you strike. For this demonstration, I did not do a follow-through because it was not needed. But with a more powerful serve, you have the option of doing the additional jump, which I'll demonstrate now. And if you could tell from the sound, it hit much harder. That is because you're adding your body weight with the effects of gravity into the serve, which makes it much more powerful. All right, so one thing you can do to practice before you actually get into the service position or before you even get into a game is you can practice control over the ball simply by locking your body, except for your dominant arm, which will be used to control the racket. Now, by doing this, this actually enables you to see where on the racket the ball is hitting and how it responds based on how you hit it. If you hit it harder, you get a higher bounce. If you hit it softer, you get a lighter bounce. And this also helps you with proprioceptive training, as you can feel where your body is in relation to the racket in space. Once you get a little bit better at this and keeping the ball stable in an area where you're not moving your legs around, you can also move to using the side of the racket to better your hand-eye coordination as well. This is great for novice level players as it teaches you hand-eye coordination and proprioceptive training.